June 15, 1944, the 2nd Marine Division and 4th Marine Division land on the beaches of Saipan, Mariana Islands, 1,500 miles south of Tokyo. The island measures 14 miles long and 5 miles wide. Terrain consists of volcanic mountains in the north, sugar cane fields in the center, coastal plains rimmed with coral reefs. Japanese garrison numbers approximately 31,000 men. A mix of Imperial Japanese Army 43rd Division under Lieutenant General Yoshitsugu Saitō and naval forces under Vice Admiral Chuichi Nagumo, the same Nagumo who commanded the carrier strike force at Pearl Harbor, now relegated to land defense of an island the Japanese High Command knows is critical to the defense of the home islands. If Saipan falls, American B-29 bombers will be within range of Tokyo. The invasion begins with naval bombardment, 600 ships offshore, battleships and cruisers pounding the coastline. Smoke rises in columns visible for 50 miles, Marines land at 0840 hours, wade through surf. Under fire, 20,000 men ashore by nightfall. Japanese defenders fight from prepared positions, bunkers and caves blasted into coral and volcanic rock. The Americans advance slowly, yard by yard, flamethrowers and demolition charges against each position. By June 18, 2 Marine divisions and the Army's 27th Infantry Division are ashore, 71,000 American troops pressing north against fierce resistance. The Japanese strategy is attrition: hold every position as long as possible, force the Americans to pay in blood for every foot of ground. Imperial General Headquarters has no illusions about victory. They know Saipan will fall but hope the cost will delay future operations, make the Americans reconsider the invasion of Japan itself. Japanese soldiers are instructed to fight to the death. Surrender is not permitted. The Bushido Code and military indoctrination create a force that will not yield. Civilians on the island, approximately 22,000 Japanese settlers and Korean laborers, are told that Americans will torture and kill them. Many believe it. By late June, as American forces push toward the northern cliffs, hundreds of civilians choose suicide over capture, jumping from the cliffs at Marpy Point into the sea 200 feet below. American soldiers and Marines watch helplessly, shouting assurances in Japanese through loudspeakers, but the propaganda runs too deep, the fear too strong. July 6, 1944, 3 weeks into the battle, American forces control most of the island. Japanese defenders compressed into a pocket in the north, approximately 3 miles wide and 1 mile deep, terrain rough, ravines and jungle vegetation, limited roads. The Japanese are running out of everything: ammunition, food, water, medical supplies. Wounded soldiers lie in caves untreated. Infection and gangrene spreading. The healthy are exhausted, malnourished, many suffering from dysentery. General Saitō establishes his command post in a cave near the village of Makunsha, Admiral Nagumo's headquarters nearby. Both men know the end is near. American artillery pounds their positions continuously, 105mm and 155mm howitzers firing from positions several miles south. Shells crash into the jungle day and night. The ground trembles, trees explode into splinters, caves collapse burying men alive. The American 27th Infantry Division, a National Guard unit from New York, holds the line facing the Japanese pocket. The division consists of 3 regiments, the 105th, 106th, and 165th Infantry. These are not Marines, they are citizen soldiers, called up from civilian life, trained at bases in the United States before shipping to the Pacific. They have seen combat on Makin Atoll and Eniwetok, but nothing like Saipan. The division has taken heavy casualties in 3 weeks of fighting. Entire companies reduced to platoon strength. The men are tired, nerves frayed from constant shelling and night infiltrations. Japanese soldiers probing their lines after dark, sometimes in small groups, sometimes individuals, desperate men with bayonets and grenades. The Americans sleep in shifts, 1 man awake for every 2 sleeping, foxholes dug deep into the volcanic soil, ponchos stretched overhead against the rain that falls most afternoons. The temperature during the day reaches 90 degrees Fahrenheit, humidity near saturation, uniforms never dry, skin develops fungal infections, jungle rot, feet swell in wet boots. July 6 evening, General Saitō composes his final orders, the text later recovered by American intelligence officers translating captured documents. Saitō writes, "Whether we attack or whether we stay where we are, there is only death. However, in death there is life. We must utilize this opportunity to exalt true Japanese manhood. I will advance with those who remain to deliver still another blow to the American devils and leave my bones on Saipan as a bulwark of the Pacific." The message distributed to unit commanders, officers pass the word to their men. Preparations begin for a final attack, a Gyokusai, honorable death. The largest Banzai charge of the Pacific War is ordered for the morning of July 7. Soldiers prepare through the night, those with rifles clean them one last time. those without rifles sharpen bamboo spears, some carry only bayonets lashed to poles, others have grenades, Japanese Type 97 hand grenades with 50-gram explosive charge, soldiers tie grenades to their belts, some wire multiple grenades together to create larger explosions, officers retain their swords, family blades some of them, centuries old, wrapped in silk and carried across the Pacific, naval personnel join the formation, sailors trained for ships now fighting as infantry, they wear blue uniforms instead of army khaki, many are wounded, bandages wrapped around heads and limbs, some can barely walk but insist on participating, to die in battle rather than by starvation or suicide in a cave, walking wounded become assault troops, their wounds mean they have nothing more to lose. General Saitō does not lead the charge himself. On the evening of July 6 he commits ritual suicide, seppuku, in his cave headquarters, assisted by an aide who delivers the final blow with a sword. Admiral Nagumo kills himself the same evening, pistol shot to the head. Both men choose death on their own terms rather than dying in the attack or being captured. Their bodies are buried by aides in shallow graves. The locations marked so they can be reported to Tokyo. Command of the assault falls to Colonel Takeshi Komagaya and other surviving officers. The plan is simple, there is no subtlety left, no room for tactics, just mass and momentum. Every able-bodied Japanese soldier will advance south along the coastal road and through the adjacent jungle. They will overrun the American positions, break through to the rear areas, destroy supply dumps and artillery positions, kill as many Americans as possible before being killed themselves. Midnight passes, the hours before dawn are quiet except for the usual sounds, artillery fire from American positions, occasional rifle shots, insects in the jungle, the constant white noise of tropical night. Japanese soldiers assemble in ravines and staging areas. Unit cohesion is gone, there are no intact companies or battalions anymore, just groups of men clustered by circumstance. Army mixes with Navy, officers with enlisted men, wounded with healthy, they share what ammunition remains, few rounds per man, some have none. The assault will rely on shock and numbers rather than firepower. At 0400 hours the command is given, officers blow whistles, the mass of men begins moving south. The attack jumps off at 0445 hours, just before dawn, the eastern sky showing the first gray light. The Japanese come in waves, not organized waves but surges of men, hundreds then thousands, they scream as they run, the traditional battle cry, Tenno Heika Banzai, long live the emperor, 10,000 years, the sound carries across the landscape, a roar of human voices. The Americans in their foxholes hear it coming, hear it growing louder. Some have experienced Banzai charges before, small ones, company-sized, but nothing like this, nothing that sounds like this, the volume and the fury. The Japanese hit the positions of the 1st and 2nd Battalions, 105th Infantry Regiment. The American line runs roughly east-west across the coastal plain and into the foothills, the 1st Battalion on the left near the coast, 2nd Battalion on the right, approximately 1,500 American soldiers in defensive positions along a 2-mile front. They have spent the previous day improving their foxholes, stringing barbed wire where supplies permit, registering mortar targets on likely approach routes, but there is not enough wire, not enough mines, not enough of anything. The supplies are still coming ashore on the southern beaches and moving north slowly. The division is stretched thin, companies at half strength, gaps in the line covered by observation and overlapping fields of fire rather than physical presence. The first Japanese reach the American line at 0450 hours. They emerge from the pre-dawn darkness, running, stumbling, some wounded men crawling. They hit the foxholes and the fighting becomes hand-to-hand immediately, bayonets and rifle butts, grenades thrown at point-blank range. American soldiers fire rifles and carbines as fast as they can work the actions. Bar gunners hold triggers down, 20-round magazines emptying in seconds. The noise is immense, overlapping, rifle fire and screaming and explosions. Flares go up, illumination shells fired by American mortars. The battlefield lights up in harsh magnesium white light, shadows jumping and flickering. The Americans see the mass of Japanese still coming, hundreds of men visible in the flare light, thousands more behind in the darkness. The defensive line breaks in multiple places within the first 10 minutes, too many attackers, not enough defenders. The Japanese pour through the gaps. Company A of the 1st Battalion is overrun, approximately 100 men killed or scattered in the first rush. Company B holds slightly longer but is flanked and collapses. Survivors retreat south toward the battalion command post. The 2nd Battalion fares somewhat better. The terrain is more broken, ravines and coral outcrops that channel the attack. Allow the defenders to concentrate fire, but the pressure is enormous. Japanese soldiers keep coming, stepping over their own dead. The American soldiers shoot until their rifles are too hot to touch, barrels glowing. Still the Japanese come. Dawn breaks at 0520 hours, the sun rising out of the Pacific, light spreading across the battlefield. The Americans can now see the full scale of the attack. The coastal road is packed with Japanese soldiers, a river of men flowing south. Rifle fire and machine gun fire cut them down in rows, but more keep coming. American artillery begins firing. 105mm howitzers from positions 3 miles south. Shells scream overhead and impact among the Japanese formations, high explosive rounds detonating in airbursts and ground strikes. Each shell kills or wounds dozens, limbs and bodies thrown into the air, but the charge does not stop, does not slow. The Japanese run through their own dead, through the shell craters, through the smoke and dust. At 0600 hours the Japanese penetrate 1.5 miles into American lines. They overrun the command post of the 1st Battalion, kill or capture most of the staff, seize 2 105mm howitzers that were supporting the infantry. The gun crews fight with pistols and rifle taken from dead infantrymen but are overwhelmed. The Japanese do not know how to operate the American guns and move past them. American units further south realize the line has broken, begin forming defensive perimeters. The 105th Regiment's 3rd Battalion, previously in reserve, deploys to block the advance, sets up hasty positions across the coastal road, machine guns placed to enfilade the road, riflemen in ditches and behind any cover available. The Japanese charge reaches the 3rd Battalion positions at 0630 hours. By now the attacking force is more fragmented, spread across a wider front. Many of the leaders are dead, unit cohesion gone. But individual soldiers and small groups continue to advance. Some still have ammunition and fire as they come, most do not. They charge with bayonets and swords. Some throw rocks when they have nothing else. The 3rd Battalion holds its fire until the Japanese are within 100 yards, then opens up with everything. The concentrated fire is devastating. The Japanese fall in heaps but more come, reach the positions. The fighting again becomes close combat. Americans fix bayonets. Some fight with entrenching tools and helmets, anything that can be used as a weapon. Tanks arrive, American M4 Sherman tanks from the 762nd Tank Battalion. They have been held in reserve and now rumble forward. 5 tanks in a column on the coastal road. The lead tank commander, a lieutenant from Ohio, sees the mass of Japanese soldiers ahead, gives the order to fire. The 75mm main gun and coaxial machine gun open up. The effect is terrible. The 75mm firing high explosive shells into the packed mass of men. Each round creates a red mist. Machine gun fire at 400 rounds per minute sweeping the road. The Japanese cannot harm the tanks. They have no anti-tank weapons. Some try to climb on the hulls and are shot down by infantry supporting the armor. Some throw grenades that bounce off the steel plate. Others simply stand and wait to be shot, preferring death to retreat. By 0800 hours the Japanese attack is spent, forward momentum stops, the attackers are dead or dying. Scattered groups continue to fight in isolated pockets but the mass charge is over. American forces begin the process of clearing the battlefield, moving forward slowly, checking bodies, shooting any Japanese who show signs of life. There is no mercy now. The fighting has been too close, too vicious. American soldiers shoot wounded Japanese, shoot those feigning death, shoot those trying to surrender. Though few try, Japanese soldiers resist to the last. Some detonate grenades when Americans approach, killing themselves and wounding the Americans. The combat engineers come forward with flamethrowers, burn out caves and bunkers where Japanese soldiers hide. The counting begins. American casualties for the 27th Infantry Division on July 7, 1944, are 406 killed and 244 wounded, mostly from the 1st and 2nd Battalions of the 105th Regiment. Some companies cease to exist, reduced to 12 men. The regimental commander estimates that his unit has lost 30% of its strength in 3 hours. Japanese casualties are staggering. The official count after the battle lists 4,311 Japanese dead on the battlefield. Bodies are everywhere, on the roads, in the fields, in the jungle, stacked in piles where machine gun fire caught them, sprawled individually where they fell to rifle fire. Some bodies are intact, some are dismembered by artillery, some burned beyond recognition. The smell becomes unbearable as the tropical heat accelerates decomposition. Burial details work for 3 days. American engineers use bulldozers to dig mass graves. Japanese bodies are pushed into trenches by the hundreds and covered with coral sand. Survivors from the charge are few. American forces capture 921 Japanese prisoners during the entire Saipan campaign. Most surrender only after being wounded to the point they cannot resist, cannot commit suicide. Of the approximately 3,000 Japanese who participated in the Banzai charge, fewer than 200 survive. Most of these are wounded men who were passed by in the advance and found later in caves. the prisoner interrogation reports note that captured soldiers express shame at being alive. Some request to be shot. American intelligence officers question them about the attack, learn that officers told the men they would break through to the southern beaches, push the Americans into the sea, recapture the island. The soldiers believed it or pretended to believe it, the alternative was unbearable. The battlefield after the charge is documented by military photographers. Signal Corps cameramen move forward with the infantry on July 8, photograph the dead. The images are stark, bodies lie in rows, some clutching weapons, some with arms outstretched, faces frozen in final expressions. The photographs are classified initially, too graphic for publication during the war, only released years later to historians. One series of images shows the coastal road, bodies covering the pavement so thickly that vehicles cannot pass until they are cleared. Another series shows the American positions, foxholes ringed with Japanese dead, some bodies draped over barbed wire, some piled against machine gun positions where they fell under fire. General Saitō's body is recovered by American forces on July 9, found in a cave with Admiral Nagumo's body, both identified through documents and personal effects. The bodies are photographed for intelligence purposes, then buried with other Japanese dead. After the war the remains are located and repatriated to Japan. Saitō is promoted posthumously to full general, Nagumo receives similar honors. Both are enshrined at Yasukuni Shrine in Tokyo where Japanese war dead are venerated. The sword Saitō used for seppuku is recovered by an American officer, carried home as a war trophy, decades later donated to a museum. The Battle of Saipan officially ends on July 9, 1944. Organized Japanese resistance ceases, though small groups and individuals continue to hide in caves, some for weeks, some for months. One Japanese soldier, Captain Sakai Oba, leads a band of 46 men in guerrilla operations until December 1, 1945, surrendering only after the war has officially ended and he receives direct orders from his superior officer to lay down arms. But for the great mass of Japanese forces the end comes on July 7, in the Banzai Charge, the final expenditure of lives in a battle already lost. American forces spend the remainder of July securing the island, mopping up, building infrastructure for the B-29 bomber bases that will soon begin operations. Isley Field, formerly a Japanese airbase, is expanded and paved. By October 1944 the first B-29s arrive. By November they are bombing Tokyo, proving the strategic calculations correct. Saipan's fall shortens the war, brings American airpower within range of the Japanese home islands, but the cost is high. American casualties for the entire Saipan operation total 3,426 killed and 13,099 wounded. Japanese casualties approximately 29,000 killed and 921 captured. Civilian casualties estimated at 22,000, many by suicide but many also caught in the fighting, killed by artillery or starvation. The political impact of Saipan's fall reverberates through the Japanese government. Prime Minister Hideki Tojo resigns on July 18, taking responsibility for the defeat. His replacement, General Kuniakai Koiso, is a figurehead with no real plan for victory. The Japanese leadership understands the war is lost but cannot agree on terms for surrender. The debate continues for another year while more islands fall, more cities burn, until August 1945 when atomic bombs and Soviet entry into the war force the decision. Historians analyzing the Banzai Charge debate its purpose. Some argue it was a final act of defiance, a statement that Japanese soldiers would never surrender, meant to influence American planning for the invasion of Japan by demonstrating the costs of such an operation. Others suggest it was simply the logical outcome of Japanese military culture, the Bushido Code taken to its extreme conclusion. Death before dishonor, no option for retreat or surrender. Others note the practical considerations. The Japanese forces were trapped, out of supplies, defeat inevitable. The charge was a choice between dying slowly of starvation and disease or dying quickly in battle. Many soldiers preferred the latter. American soldiers who survived the charge carry memories for the rest of their lives. Post-war interviews with veterans record their impressions. One sergeant from the 105th Infantry states, "I fired my rifle until it jammed from heat, switched to my pistol, fired that until it was empty, then used my bayonet. I killed I don't know how many, they just kept coming, it wasn't human, it was like fighting a wave." Another veteran, a machine gunner, recalls, "We had interlocking fields of fire, good positions, we cut them down like wheat but there were so many, the barrel of my gun was glowing red, I had to change it twice, my assistant gunner was killed bringing up ammunition, I kept firing, what else could I do?" Japanese survivors, the few who were captured, tell similar stories from the other side. One soldier, interviewed by Allied intelligence in 1945, states, "I knew I would die, everyone knew, but we were soldiers, we had our orders, we could not refuse, I was wounded early, could not keep up with the advance, lay in the bushes until the Americans passed, then I surrendered, I am ashamed. Another prisoner reports, I had no rifle, only a bamboo spear, I ran with the others, I saw men cut down on all sides, I fell when something hit my leg, I thought I was shot but it was a rock thrown up by an explosion, I could not get up, I lay there until captured, I wish I had died with my comrades. The battlefield itself becomes part of military history, studied at war colleges, analyzed in tactical publications. The Banzai charge at Saipan is cited as an example of fanatical resistance, of the dangers of inflexible doctrine, of the costs of fighting an enemy who refuses to surrender. American military planners studying the attack in late 1944 and early 1945 extrapolate the data, calculate what an invasion of Japan might cost if every Japanese soldier fights to the death, if civilians join the fighting. The projections show hundreds of thousands of American casualties, millions of Japanese casualties. These calculations influence the decision to use atomic weapons in August 1945, the logic being that the shock of the bombs might break Japanese resistance where conventional attacks cannot. The island of Saipan today is part of the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, a U.S. territory. The population is approximately 50,000, mostly Chamorro and Carolinian indigenous people, with communities of Filipino and Chinese workers. Tourism is the main industry. Japanese tourists visit in large numbers. Some come to see the historical sites, others simply for vacation. The beaches are popular, the water clear and warm, hotels line the coast. On the northern end of the island, the areas where the fighting was heaviest are now parks and memorials. At Marpi Point, where hundreds of civilians jumped to their deaths, there are monuments, Japanese memorials with Buddhist and Shinto elements, Christian crosses erected by Chamorro survivors, plaques in multiple languages describing what happened. Tourists come, read the inscriptions, take photographs, move on. The cliffs are fenced for safety, signs warn visitors to stay back. The water below is very blue, very deep. The bodies that fell in 1944 were never recovered, currents carried them away. Or they sank to the bottom 200 feet down where darkness and pressure preserve them still. Along the coastal road where the Banzai charge took place there are markers, small monuments noting the positions of American units, Japanese units, explaining the battle. The road itself is paved now, smooth asphalt, cars and tourist buses drive the route. Few passengers know they are passing over ground where thousands died. The jungle has reclaimed much of the battlefield, trees and vines covering the bunkers and foxholes. Some positions are preserved, cleared and unmarked, most are left to nature. Occasionally construction projects uncover remains, bones and equipment buried in the soil. These are collected, identified if possible through DNA analysis and historical records, returned to families if families can be found. The caves where Japanese soldiers hid are tourist attractions now. Some are open for tours, others are sealed for safety or out of respect. One cave near Marpi Point, called Suicide Cliff Cave, contains a small shrine, offerings left by Japanese visitors, flowers and incense, prayers for the dead. American visitors leave coins and small flags. The cave is dark and cool inside, water drips from the ceiling. The walls show blast marks from grenades and flamethrowers used in 1944. The silence inside is profound, broken only by dripping water and the occasional tourist's voice. Isley Field still exists, renamed Saipan International Airport. Commercial flights arrive daily from Japan, South Korea, China. The runways are the same ones built in 1944, extended and improved but following the original layout. B-29 revetments are still visible along the edges, concrete pads where bombers were parked, now used for cargo and maintenance facilities. An old B-29, not one that served here but the same type, sits near the terminal as a static display. Tourists photograph it. Children climb on the landing gear. Few understand what it represents, the culmination of the Saipan battle, the strategic purpose that cost 29,000 Japanese lives and 16,000 American casualties to achieve. The historical debate continues. Military historians and researchers publish books and articles analyzing the battle, questioning decisions, assessing alternatives. Some argue the 27th Infantry Division was poorly positioned, that better reconnaissance and stronger defenses could have prevented the breakthrough. Others defend the division, note that they held despite overwhelming numbers, that the breakthrough was contained and the attack destroyed. Some Japanese historians question the decision to launch the Banzai charge, suggest that continued defensive operations from the caves might have prolonged resistance, made Saipan more costly for the Americans, but these are theoretical exercises. The decisions were made in July 1944 under desperate circumstances by men who are long dead. The results are historical fact. 4,311 Japanese soldiers dead on the battlefield, 650 American casualties, the island secured, the war shortened, but the cost paid in blood and trauma by men on both sides. The last American veteran of the Saipan Banzai charge died in 2018, a former sergeant who was 22 years old in July 1944. He lived to age 96, gave interviews in his later years, described the battle in detail, his memories precise even decades later. He spoke of the sound, the screaming of thousands of voices, the sight of the Japanese soldiers emerging from the darkness, the smell of gunpowder and blood. He stated in his final interview, "I did my duty, we all did, but I have never been proud of what happened that morning. There was no glory in it, just killing, so much killing, they died for nothing, we killed them because we had to, but it was waste, such terrible waste." Japanese veterans are fewer, most died during the war. The handful who survived and returned to Japan rarely spoke of their experiences, the shame of defeat and survival weighing too heavily. One survivor, located in the 1980s by a Japanese researcher, agreed to an interview but would not give his name. He described the charge, said, "We ran into the fire, what else could we do? I saw my friends die around me. I kept running, then I fell, I don't remember why. When I woke the battle was over, I was in American hands. I have lived with this for 40 years, wondering why I survived when better men died. There is no answer, it was chance, nothing more." The sun rises over Saipan every morning as it did on July 7, 1944, the same sun that lit the battlefield, that showed the American defenders the mass of Japanese soldiers coming toward them, that revealed the dead lying in rows when the fighting ended. The island wakes, workers drive to jobs, children go to school, tourists arrive at the airport, life continues as it does everywhere, built on layers of history. Most recent events on top, older events buried deeper. The war is 80 years in the past, beyond living memory soon, preserved only in documents and photographs, and the physical scars on the landscape, the monuments and memorials that mark where men died for causes they believed in or were ordered to believe in. The truth of what happened on July 7, 1944, is recorded in official documents, after-action reports filed by American unit commanders in the days following the battle, casualty lists typed on manual typewriters, names and serial numbers of the dead and wounded, Japanese documents captured and translated, diaries recovered from bodies, photographs taken by military cameramen. All of this preserved in archives. The National Archives in College Park, Maryland holds the American records. The Japanese records are scattered, some lost in the war, some held by the National Institute for Defense Studies in Tokyo. Researchers access these files, write dissertations and books, trying to understand, trying to explain, but the essence of the event, the experience of being there, of living through those hours, cannot be fully captured in words or images, only approximated, described from outside. The actual experience died with the men who lived it. What remains is the fact. 3,000 Japanese soldiers attacked American positions at dawn on July 7, 1944. They advanced approximately 2 miles before being stopped. They killed 406 American soldiers and wounded 244 more. They lost over 4,000 men killed. The attack failed to change the outcome of the battle. Saipan fell to American forces 2 days later. The strategic consequences were significant, the tactical results were foreordained, the human cost was terrible on both sides. These are facts. Verified and recorded. What they mean, how they should be understood, whether the sacrifice was noble or futile, these are questions each person must answer individually. History provides the facts but not the interpretation. The dead cannot speak, the survivors disagree, the passage of time obscures rather than clarifies. Silence falls over the battlefield after the guns stop. The tropical heat intensifies as morning progresses toward noon. Insects return, birds begin to call again, the smoke drifts away on the wind, the sun climbs higher, the bodies lie where they fell, some in the sun, some in the shade, some in water, some on dry land. The war moves on, other islands, other battles, other men dying. But here on Saipan in the northern sector on the morning of July 7, 1944, this particular battle ends. This particular group of men, Japanese and American, finish their part in the war. Those who survived carry wounds, physical and mental. Those who died are buried or burned or lost. Those who came later, the reinforcements and the occupation forces and the civilians who returned after the war, walk over ground soaked with blood, build lives on top of death, and time passes, and memory fades, and only the written record remains.